Good evening. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for November 21st, 2024. Let us call this meeting to order. Ms. Meredith, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Derek Hunt.
Present.
Victor Mendoza.
Present.
David Brown.
Present.
Dan Mikulinka.
Present.
Cynthia Staley. Rebecca Spears. Present. Brian Olguin. Monica Rodriguez. Ralph Gonzalez.
Present.
Quorum has been met.
Thank you. As a reminder, tonight's meeting, we are being simulcast via TV 15. Ms. Celeste, do we have any announcements?
Yes, I want to go ahead and announce my new planner, Logan Ferris. Logan, can you stand up? We are back to being fully staffed, so welcome him.
Welcome aboard. Okay. At this particular time, we go into citizens' communication. We ask if any citizens have or want to speak on anything or any items that is not listed for public hearing. You're able to do it so at this time. We ask that you limit it to 3 minutes if you wish to speak. All right. I have Mr. Michael. Thank you, Mr. Michael.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michael Vondro. I live at 2204 East North Street, Victoria Oaks. You know, I wanted to talk about affordable housing and, you know, the dangers of owning a trailer house like in a trailer park. You know, they can be real strict on the rules and they can actually evict you, you know, even though you don't do anything wrong. And I just watched a eviction hearing today, and someone got evicted from a trailer house and they gave them 3 days notice and that's it. And it was a legal cat. They had a cat in there without the trailer owner's permission. And, you know, I thought they were getting strict when they gave me only 60 days motion to vacate. And, you know, a good time to evict someone is December the 23rd, you know, right before the holidays. And I don't think it's fair because I've been paying lot fee, you know, on time since 1994 to now. And what people are doing, they're financing these trailer houses. And what happens is they make the payments on time for a couple years and then they can't afford them and they get evicted. And then the owner takes away the trailer house because it's on their property and it costs $4,000 or $5,000 to move it. So all that equity they put into it, you know, is lost for good. And I wish owners could be a little more fair, but they're not, and they tend to rule in favor of the owners, you know, not the tenants, the landlords. And anyway, so I went to sell my trailer house, and they won't let me sell it and keep it on the property, you know, because my neighbor wants to buy it. So the only way I can sell it is if it gets moved. And it's like some people don't have $4,000 to move it, but I am selling it for $4,000. They'll have to pay $4,000 to move it. But I just want to caution people on, you know, living in trailer houses. You're better off buying your own home and your own land, you know, because you might be in a bad situation. They don't have to give you 60 days notice like they're doing me, you know, only 3 days notice. Thanks and have a good evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we're asking if there's any more citizens that would like to speak. Okay, at this time, we will go ahead and close the citizens' communication, and we will go to the development items we have for public hearing, which is the first item is the variance request for the preliminary plat for Glen Haven Cottage Subdivision. May we have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Commissioners. This staff report is for approval of variances for Section 21259A and 21260F. Approval of the preliminary plat for Glen Haven Cottages. Jayson Moore is the agent for Moore Legacy Investments, LLC, and he's also the owner. The property is located generally east of Ball Airport Road and Mason Circle intersection. Glen Haven Cottages is a proposed preliminary plat of 7.47 acres. The subject property is currently located within the city's corporate city limits. The property is undeveloped and not platted. The developer proposes to plat the property into 39 single-family residential lots within 2 blocks. To plat all 39 lots, the developer is proposing the right-of-way dedication of Fiona Circle to be 50 feet around an internal loop, which is essentially a cul-de-sac with a length that is approximately 830 feet and a half or 80 and a half above the maximum cul-de-sac length. For these reasons, the developer is requesting variances to allow for the approval of a preliminary plat depicting a proposed local street below the minimum right-of-way dedication requirements, as well as a cul-de-sac beyond the maximum cul-de-sac length. The Unified Development Ordinance states, the developer of any subdivision which necessitates the creation of new streets shall dedicate the right-of-way, layout, grade, and otherwise improve the streets in accordance to the City of Victoria street standards. If approved, a variance would allow a 50-foot right-of-way with additional utility easements abutting the proposed right-of-way instead of a 60-foot right-of-way for a local street. To meet the minimum requirements for the total lot size of a single-family residential, the developer has proposed to dedicate a 50-foot right-of-way to ensure meeting all other requirements for a single-family residential. Since the developer has proposed a reduced right-of-way dedication, additional public utility easements within the front setbacks have been provided, and the developers has proposed a subdivision restriction prohibiting on-street parking. Prohibiting on-street parking allows for better traffic flow and better access for emergency vehicles. The Unified Development Ordinance also states, a cul-de-sac is a local street which is open on one end with the closed end having a turnaround with a sufficient radius to facilitate the reversal of traffic movement. A cul-de-sac shall not exceed the maximum length of 750 feet. The proposed preliminary plat does not depict a traditional cul-de-sac, but rather a loop street, which is fundamentally the same as a cul-de-sac, as it's a no outlet subdivision. The granting of a variance will allow the developer to plat property with a cul-de-sac exceeding the maximum length of 750 feet while serving 39 single-family residential lots. To allow a cul-de-sac which is approximately 830 and a half feet in length or 80 and a half above the maximum length in ordinance. The developer proposes to plat the property into 39 detached single-family residential lots with 2 blocks. The proposed preliminary plat depicts the future dedication of Fiona Circle with a variable width right-of-way between 50 and 60 feet, a proposed local street. From Fiona Circle to Ball Airport Road. The infrastructure for the subdivision is as follows. Water service is being provided via proposed 8-inch water line that will connect an existing 12-inch water line in Ball Airport Road. Sanitary sewer service will be provided via 8-inch sanitary sewer line connected to the existing 15-inch line located in Ball Airport Road. For the streets, Ball Airport Road is an existing secondary arterial with a 90-foot right-of-way. Fiona Circle is a proposed local street, and the right-of-way varies. Drainage is in accordance with the City of Victoria's Master Drainage Plan. Staff recommends approval of the variances requested to allow the developer to plat the property with a reduced right-of-way dedication of 50 feet for a portion of the proposed local street, Fiona Circle, and a cul-de-sac exceeding the maximum length of 750 feet while serving 39 residential lots. The allowance for the reduced right-of-way and cul-de-sac length will not be detrimental to the efficiency of the road network and the surrounding areas, and all other subdivision requirements are met, most specifically lot size and setbacks. The subdivision design generally promotes wider lots that will allow for adequate off-street parking, since the on-street parking will be prohibited as well as part of the subdivision design standards as approved by the Public Works Department. With this restriction, staff believes the variances will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, and recommends approval of the reduced right-of-way. Additionally, the public utility easements is in compliance with the city's standards specifications for utility construction. Lastly, the proposed cul-de-sac length is slightly over the maximum, but the general narrowness of the property does not allow subdivision designs outside of the cul-de-sac. The variance of the cul-de-sac length is minimal. For these reasons, staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat for Glen Haven Cottages, finding it meets all applicable ordinances, regulations, conditioned upon the approval of the variances.
Thank you for presenting. Before we go to commissioners' discussion, we will open up for a public hearing. If there's any citizens that would like to speak on this particular item, we're asking that you come forward now, but limit your response to 3 minutes. At this time, you're able to come if you'd like to speak on this particular item. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and now we're open for discussion among, if any questions or anything that the commissioners may have.
I actually would like to ask, and it doesn't really concern the variance, but if there is no on-street parking as required by the ordinance of the neighborhood association, who enforces that? Is that a police officer's enforcement? Who enforces that, and what does enforcement look like?
So typically, it would, with this one, it could possibly be an HOA style, or if we end up posting the signs, it would be law enforcement.
Okay.
For
Is there
that.
a plan to post signs?
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, this is just the preliminary plat. We haven't got to that, but that would be, if we go forward with the preliminary plat and the filing of the final plat, the signs will be required.
That's my only question. Thank you.
Celeste, do we have any subdivisions with 50-foot right-of-way as they're proposing in Victoria right now?
So
I mean, I had the same thought. I was going to ask the question too about the, you're talking about no parking on the streets. That's I was wondering who's going to enforce that if it is so to be. I don't see an HOA enforcing it. I don't see that. I say police would do it.
So the actual design of the road also is they're proposing a 30-foot width of the paved road, which is the typical width of most paved roads on there.
Right.
So we, just to kind of enforce it and keep it safe, that's why we went with recommending approval and doing the extra utility variances. So that 60 foot of right-of-way is really for those utilities, kind of keeping them out of the road, but the actual paving is matching most local streets.
Some streets, when there's subdivisions, it's pretty hard to get through when you have smaller street sizes. So I see where there's a 60-foot and it turns into 50 for the loop, the Fiona loop.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, that beginning part, they are going to go ahead and propose that 60, and then that paved at the beginning is actually going to be 36 feet of paving is being proposed.
It meets all, I heard him say that it meted all the floodplain issues, right?
Yes, correct. This is not in a floodplain area on
Right.
that.
For
And
drainage wise, I'm hoping that all that's.
correct. And right now, this is just the preliminary plat in front of y'all that we're kind of bringing before. Y'all will see the final plat again, and the construction plans will be tied to that final plat. So they'll have more design factors at that time.
I guess continuing with the parking discussion, with no on-street parking, I guess every owner will park in their own property. There's no gift parking. There's no.
It's just like your residential home on there. So the reason for the reduced right-of-way also is to get that lot size bigger so they can actually make a bigger parking. It's not your typical size, but they're still required to have the minimum for a single-family residential, which is a 20 by 20 parking pad. But yeah, no,
Basically enough for 2 cars.
yes.
Do we have any other further discussion from the commissioners? Okay, at this particular time, we're going to seek for a motion to accept the staff's recommendation for the preliminary plat for Glen Haven Cottage subdivision. Do we have a motion? We have one motion from Mrs. Spears. Do we have a second from Vice Chair? All in favor, say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Now we get to move on to what we call the consent agenda. Right now, do we have a motion that we accept the consent agenda as is?
Dr. Hunt, you need to state what's on the consent agenda before they can do that motion.
Oh, thank you. Oh, okay, thank you, appreciate it. So here on the consent agenda, there's two items on the consent agenda, which is the minutes of the October 17th, 2024 meeting and the preliminary plat for Glen Haven Cottage subdivision. Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda as is?
So moved.
So we have one motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, now we go on to other business, the monthly development report. May we have the monthly development report, please?
In October of 2024, we had 226 new permits issued, and last year it was 139. For the MEP permits issued, for the month of October, it was 166, and last year 158. And for the permit fees collected, it was 64,691, and last year is 53,536.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, any concerns? Okay, thank you so much. From this, we move to.
Hold on, he has one more report.
One more.
So we had 2 minor plats this past month, 1 major plat, and 1 city council action and planning commission action that approved the variance.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any questions?
Not on that, but I've got a request.
Oh, okay.
On the planning commission attendance, that the terms expires. I would like to get that updated to reflect what is real. We're still showing Brian Olguin as term expires 2023 for one, and mine is now, I expire in 2024. So
Yes, we'll
it
get
just needs
those
to be updated.
updated.
Right now, do we have any items from the commissioners that they would like to talk about or discuss? All right, seeing that there's no other business, I would like to adjourn this meeting at whatever the time is.
Aren't we gonna talk about parking?
Well, it wasn't on the item discussed. The email went out. If we had any questions that we were supposed to directly email or talk to that person dealing with regarding, but that's why I asked if we had any items that the commissioners wanted to talk about.
If there's an item that you'd like for us to put on the next agenda, you can certainly request that, sir.
Yes.
Didn't we request it to be on today's agenda at the last meeting?
Well,
From what when me and Julie went back and looked at the last planning commission, it looked like y'all wanted staff to do an analysis of those parking requirements. That's why we provided y'all the parking memo. After y'all reviewed that, if y'all still want to bring it back on another agenda, we can add it.
Sir, first of all, the memo was very clear and very well done. Thank you for that. Some concern still remains, I believe, especially about the development currently under process on South Main.
Okay, so with the development on South Main, so the issue y'all brought up about the multifamily parking issue, we can bring that issue back in front of the commission. However, that won't influence the Pearl Division development. That's already been approved. Any kind of discussion with the multifamily development parking would affect any future developments with multifamily.
I understand that. I think the wish of the commissioners when this was discussed 2 months ago was that they were concerned there wasn't enough parking at the current development, and we wanted to have wording that would protect that from happening again.
So we can, like I said, if you want to bring that back up as far as multi-development parking on another agenda, we can do that, but it wouldn't affect the Pearl home. So if y'all want to put that, we can put that on the next December agenda if y'all like.
Well, the problem persists, and I think it needs to be discussed.
Does that have to come to a vote if that should be on agenda, or we just go ahead and suggest? that
Okay,
we
but
put
to be clear, the agenda would only be discussing multifamily parking. We could not bring up the Pearl home development because the parking on that development was not against the ordinance. It was approved at that time.
I understand that.
Correct.
So-
I think we just want to prevent that issue from
Okay,
happening.
so we can,
Sure, so we can add that, yes. Any of you can request an item be brought forth as an item on the agenda at the next meeting. So we can certainly make sure that particular concern is an item to be discussed at the next meeting, yes. You don't need to vote on that.
And can I ask, just to be clear for myself, what constitutes multifamily parking? And the reason I'm asking is because if I remember correctly from the development on Main, the development was divided into 3 homes, 2 homes, 2 homes, 3 homes to avoid that multifamily development.
And I am not trying to jump in front of you here, but we do have to keep the conversations to the things that are on the agenda. So if you can hold that question until the next meeting, or email it to Celeste or Julie, that's totally fine. But that's going to put us into a discussion that's not posted, and so I don't want to risk that at this time. So I'm not trying to get in front of you.
I appreciate that.
But we can, like I said, we will certainly make sure that that's added to, so y'all can have a full-on discussion about it if you'd like to.
so for December, just for mine, I will go ahead and put it on items for discussion for commissioners. We will discuss multifamily development parking for y'all. We'll get that added.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So I'll ask a question, do we have any more items for discussion? And I'll count to 5 in my head. Okay, so since we don't, we'll go ahead and there's no other business, we will go and adjourn the meeting at 5:37 PM.
Correct.